My guest at this time has won numerous championships in WWE, WCW, and elsewhere. He is now working as the wrestling coordinator for the hit NBC sitcom Young Rock. It's our good friend, Chavo Guerrero. Chavo, thank you very much for taking some more time to chat with
What's
me.
going? Yeah, Nick, good to see you, man. Thanks for always having me and being so cool all the time.
My pleasure, man. Well, speaking of being cool, dude, I mean, you're part of the coolest thing in town. 5 million plus people tuned in for episode 1 of Young Rock. Before we get into that and so much more, how did you even get first involved with this? How did this begin?
Number one show on TV, brother. Number one show on TV right now, which is cool. It was actually brought to my attention today. I actually said number one show on NBC, and they're like, no, number one show on TV. So I was like, awesome, cool.
Wow, dude. Yeah. So how did this all get started for you, man? Where did your involvement with Young Rock begin?
Well, with Dwayne Johnson, really, but also with Brian Gewirtz, who was the head writer for WWE for many years, and is now an executive producer for $7 Production. So that's kind of where it started, man. I've done, to be honest, I sold a show to $7 and kind of were pitching it. And then I collaborated with them to pitch it around to different networks. So we started doing that together, and then the pandemic hit, and then everything kind of shut down. So then we were just kind of sitting there, and everything was shut down, and Hollywood was shut down, and which is weird. Whenever anything's kind of going on, if it's a recession or whatever, it never really affects me too much because of wrestling and Hollywood entertainment is always going. But this is the first time I've ever seen everything shut down. I mean, literally, all income shut down, period. You weren't doing any signings, you weren't doing any events, you weren't doing any shows, nothing. So I kind of was just sitting there for about 5-6 months. And then I got a call from Brian and said, hey, we have this show called Young Rock. And it is, we can't film. We're ready to go. It's all greenlit, but we can't film in Los Angeles because of everything going on. Everything's shut down. So we're going to Australia to film. And they go, do you know any, wrestling coordinators in that area? And I'm like, okay. Well, first of all, a wrestling trainer and a wrestling coordinator for TV are two completely separate things. That's like apples and oranges. And I go, if you don't get the right guys, I go, yeah, I know one person. I go, me. And they go, oh, yeah. And they go, would you want to go? And I said, well, absolutely. And they go, oh, we weren't sure if you'd want to do this. So I said, absolutely, 100%. The only real problem was getting into Australia, because right now everything's shut down. You have to have like special permission from the Australian government, and you have to be like an essential worker there to be able to travel over there. So, they submitted me, and it was like, we want you really bad, but it's up to them. It's up to the Australian government. And we was lucky enough to get that okay. We went in there, I quarantined for 2 weeks, and then we got to work on this project. It was great.
Dude, that's crazy, man. So how engaged is Dwayne on this? Is he there every day on set? Is he working with you on putting the matches together? Like, how closely were you working with him on this thing?
So he's very, very involved. It's not like he just put his name on it and then said, okay, I'll see you in 2 months. No, he is super involved in Zoom meetings, and he's got final say on everything. So he was not in Australia, though, because of the fact that he can't quarantine for 2 weeks. He's got too much going on. And when you say quarantine, I was in a hotel room for 2 weeks. They police escorted me in, they closed the door, and then 2 weeks later they opened the door. That's some serious stuff. Yeah. So yeah. So he filmed all of his stuff in Atlanta. So after we filmed like the first episode or 2 episodes, our executive producer Natch, and the creator also, she flew back to Atlanta and did his stuff with Dwayne. So he was never actually on set, but Zoom meetings and stuff all the time. And that's kind of how everybody collaborated with him. Any question I had, I would just tell, Brian would text him right away, and we'd find out, Rocky wants to do this. I still call him Rocky. I still call him Rocky. Rocky wants to do this. Rocky wants to do that. So I'm like, okay, great. Let's get it done. And for me, it was really, I'm always passionate about the projects I do anyways, but this was hit home so much, because if you've seen the show, that is my life. That is exactly how I grew up, except for the running for president part. But that's exactly how I grew up. I mean, it was my uncles were Roddy Piper and the not the Wild Samoans, but it was other wrestlers. Andre the Giant. I remember meeting Andre at 7 years old. He was a family friend. And, different stories with my dad and my grandfather and Andre, my uncles and Andre. So that it's my life. And after seeing that first episode, I was like, this is my life. And not only that, it's my friend's project. It's my friend's life. It's Dwayne's life. So I was super passionate about this and really put extra attention to it.
You talk about how all these people, and that's what I thought was kind of interesting when I was sitting here thinking of questions to ask you, Chavo, is because you knew Andre and Roddy and all these folks, and here you're in this position now where you're taking these actors and you're like getting them to be people that right? Like how weird was that for you? How much did how much pressure did that put on you to deliver kind of in that circumstance there?
You know what? I don't really look at it as pressure because it's something I've done my entire life. Wrestling I've done my entire life. And after, doing my first couple shows and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Okay. Because the first couple shows, you don't really know what you know. You kind of get in there like, okay. And then you're just, testing the waters. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute. I do know some of this stuff. Okay. And, some of the people are like, how do you know that, Chavo? I said, I don't know. I just know it. I grew up, third generation professional wrestler. It's been fed our family for 85 plus years. So we've seen, wrestling evolve and we've evolved with that. So the pressure, God, really wasn't there. I would tell some of the, the other actors and say, okay, this is how he would act. This is how he do it. Now that's their portrayal of the roles. I'm not on that camera, at least not yet, but doing that with them. So that's really them. I can give them advice all they want, but that's their idea of how they want to play that role. And of course, Dwayne right there he's got a lot of insight and is steering these guys in the right direction.
Yeah, sure. I'm just saying it's got to be a little odd, man. Another Andre walking around here, like, you're not Andre, but you're all of a sudden you kind of are Andre. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, Big Matt. And I didn't know Matt, and I didn't know the John and Fosse who played the Wild Samoans, or Kevin who plays Macho Man, who's coming up here pretty soon.
Yeah.
Or Brett who played Iron Sheik, or Nate who played Junkyard Dog. I had never met them before, but literally the first day out of quarantine, I met these guys and it was like a family right from the start. Right from the start, we all hit it off and everybody's so cool. Everybody's like really just, wants this show to succeed and wants their peers to succeed. So everybody's in each other's corners. It's really, really cool. It was like one big happy family. We were all staying at the same hotel. We'd all like go, hey, text each other and say, hey, we're gonna go be barbecuing on the roof at 4:00. Okay, great. I'm offset at 2, and everybody bring meat and bring whatever we had over, and we just all barbecue and hang out, drink some beers. It was really, really cool environment.
That's awesome. And so all these actors, kind of similarly with Glow, did anybody have wrestling experience, or is this kind of starting from the ground floor where you're teaching actors how to bump and roll and do what they needed to do for the fights you were putting together?
No wrestling experience. Nobody. There was not a wrestler there except for a couple of the extras. We had, yeah, but all the main actors, no wrestling experience whatsoever. So it was us actually, me teaching these guys exactly what I could do. And we were on a limited time. We were on a time crunch. It wasn't like on Glow, I had these actresses for a whole month before we even started filming. So every day, 5 days a week, 3 hours a day, 2 classes a day, I was training these girls. This, we didn't have, we were on a time crunch. A lot of times I would have, doubled, maybe at least had a double there for these actors. We were in one city in Australia. And with that pandemic, with that lockdown and the quarantine, I had nobody to choose from. It was like, okay, guys, unfortunately, you guys are doing all your own bumps. You guys are doing all your own moves. You're going to see some super great stuff. And it's all the actors did everything because there were no doubles.
Yeah.
We couldn't have doubles there. If it was in LA, yeah, I would have had doubles for them just in case, like it was the actors doing everything.
Man, and how beat up? I would imagine there was probably some rough days on set for them having to kind of do that and throw themselves into it immediately like that with their bodies.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of icy hot being passed around. And I had some CBD cream that I had taken to Australia, not knowing that it's illegal there. I
Okay.
had this CBD cream that you just rub on. There's no THC, it's just straight CBD, and it's really great. And I use it a lot of times for joints and muscles and stuff. Well, we passed that around, and I'd get texts like, "Hey, Chavo, I'm coming up to your room for some of that CBD cream, man. My knees are killing me, or my back is killing me." So but that was getting passed around a lot.
So wait, you smuggled CBD into Australia? I feel like that's something we kind of just glossed over there. Wait, what? That's pretty
I
wild.
didn't know. I didn't know when I got there. Literally when I got there, everybody's like, "Oh, that CBD is not legal here." I said, "How is it not legal here? It's not a drug. There's nothing. There's no mind altering effects from this thing. It's CBD cream. I can get it at CVS here." And they're like, "No, it's not." So I guess I smuggled it over, and I don't know. It
Okay,
was not intentional.
okay, that's fine. It doesn't seem lascivious or anything like that. So, man, but
Right,
like
right, right.
this show, like I said, this thing has done huge numbers, 5 million viewers.
Hmm.
Now, one thing I kind of noticed just from the first episode to the second episode, the first episode was like you got to know all three iterations of Dwayne in that first one, right? Young, teenage, adult, or
Right,
adulterer.
right,
And then the second episode
right.
really kind of hones in more on the teenage years. Is that kind of how the show's going to progress? Is it going to be more episodes about one period in time, or is it going to be more like the debut, where you're going to see more inserts from all these different periods in each episode? I don't know.
Great question. To be honest, I don't really know. I was just in charge of doing the wrestling part, so
Sure.
I'm not in charge of editing and all the other stuff. So it was straight. It was I did my part, my wrestling part, and I wouldn't know where they're going to insert it. Well, for the I'd know what episode, but I get the scripts, but you don't really. I'm focusing on my part. I'm not marking out and watching, reading the whole thing. And to be honest, I like to watch the show like for the first time and not know the dialogue and not know what's going on. So really, after I read that script and highlight all the things that I think that I need to be part of, then I do that, and then I step away and go on to the next script.
Yeah, rock and roll, man. And with this show, we've kind of compared it to your work on Glow. Obviously, you won Emmys for kind of doing the same thing over on Glow. I mean, how much of what you learned
Mhm.
from Glow helped you on Young Rock? I mean, would you have been able to do the job you did with Young Rock if you had not done Glow or anything like that? I don't know.
Huge help from leaving. Like everything that every kind of step I've done has had progressed me to where I'm at now. From being in a little bit in WCW, but WWE for sure, 100%. And then leaving WWE and then going to Lucha Underground and kind of executive producing that, or sorry, supervising producing that, and then going to Glow, and that was like the Harvard of television right there,
Yeah.
and then to Young Rock. So that definitely the progression helped. If I wouldn't have had these steps, then definitely would not have been able to do at least the job that I knew there, because I'm looking at it a completely different way. Now I'm looking at it at camera angles. I'm looking at it as a director. I'm looking at it like, okay, maybe we're going to do this lens here. We're going to shoot it here. This is in slow motion. So now I'm learning all the terminology and what they want. I can hopefully give that to them.
It's cool to hear kind of like an Avengers type thing, like you coming together with Gewurtz and Dwayne, where it's like you all have these different experiences now in Hollywood from a writing or a producer or stunt coordinator background. And now that you guys have all kind of refined these skills a little bit, coming together to do this passion project, I mean, it's just really exciting for you and for everybody involved, man.
Super exciting. Super exciting. It was hard because once I was filming the fourth season of Glow. We had filmed 2 episodes,
Yeah,
and
dude.
the pandemic hit and shut everything down. And we're going to come back. We were going to come back, and after 6 months, we were going to come back. And all of a sudden, they pulled the plug and said, they just gotta, they gotta trim some fat and some budget stuff. And we were all, we're super bummed. But if I was still doing that Glow thing, I maybe wouldn't have been able to do this show. And that was our last season of Glow. This is the first season of Rock, and I mean, the way if it keeps going the way it is, we're going to have several more to come. So everything happens for a reason,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
hopefully this continues. But being able to work with Brian and then with Dwayne and so many other people, it's really really cool.
Dude, and I've obviously done a couple interviews with you. I think every time there was a new season of Glow, we brought you on. We just talk about Glow, man. That I mean, my
Right.
girlfriend, that was the show we bonded on, and like, I know it's not Young Rock, but we were very upset that it didn't get the final season, like a lot of fans. I mean, I don't know how.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
We
emotionally, how'd you take it? Yeah, totally.
well, we wanted that closure at least. We had the scripts all done and all the sets were done, so we knew where we were going with it, and it was going to be so good. It was going to be a very wrestling heavy season, so I was really looking forward to that. All the actresses were looking forward to that because they loved that part. They loved the acting. Don't get me wrong, but they loved getting in the ring because it made them feel strong and badass. So we had a riff from 2 episodes and some great wrestling scenes in there. And I brought in Taya, Valkyrie to do some stuff. I had Victoria coming in. I had possibly Gail King coming in. I had some good, little nuggets in there. And then when it got the plug got pulled, man, we were all sad. Some of the texts from the actresses to me were, we were so sad because there was no closure. We had no goodbye. No rap party, no nothing like that. Was stopped. So hopefully in the future, and if all the fans really, really want that, we do a Netflix movie and get some closure on it. But we'll see in the future.
No talk of taking Glow to another platform or something like that to just kind of wrap things up. That's happened with other shows and things.
You know what? That's above my pay grade. As much as
Okay.
I'd want to say absolutely great, that'd be awesome. I just, if it was up to me, like heck yes, absolutely. I think there's a huge audience for it. I don't know, man.
Okay.
I'd love to tell you yes.
All right.
I'd love to tell you. So maybe in the future we'll do another interview talking about that.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I just had to put it out into the world because we want it so badly
Absolutely.
in this household. So anyway, you're a busy guy, dude.
Absolutely. What we loved about Glow was that it wasn't just wrestling, man. It was, God, so they in the third season they dove so much into character building and just a lot of topics of today's topic, whether it be sexuality or
Dude.
demographics about race and different stuff. It was so cool how they just incorporated all that, and then we went back to wrestling. It was just we hid wrestling into a TV show.
Bash became one of the most complicated characters I've ever seen. Like,
So great. He was so good.
I was
Chris was so good.
I was so ready to see Bash in that last season, what he had become.
Right?
So
Right.
so many avenues. Well, maybe we will down the road. But man, dude,
I
you
hope
were
so.
such a busy dude, Chavo. Young Rock, Glow, which
Mm.
is no longer with us, sadly. But dude, also, and I don't know how much you can or can't say, but you also worked on Heels, or have worked on Heels, correct?
Yeah, so I was working on Heels. I was the wrestling coordinator on Heels, and then that shut down for the pandemic, and then we're just kind of waiting there and like, what's going on? So I ended up going to Young Rock,
Oh,
and to be honest, I don't know who's the wrestling coordinator on that now.
okay.
But I hear I'm still in touch with some of the actors there, and they'll text me every once in a while and say, hey man, everything's going right here, or with a couple questions. So that was a cool little project too, and I'm sad that didn't get to finish that one. But like I said, everything happens for a reason because now I'm on the number one show on TV. So
But it's just so crazy to me, Chavo. Like, again, having done interviews with you as regularly as I have, like watching
right.
you go from Lucha Underground to starting this role with Glow, and we were talking about your uncle, right? That was one of the original Glow.
Yeah, my Uncle Mondo was the original trainer for
A-
Glow.
a-
Yeah.
And I remember our conversations about you talking about stepping into that role. And now, dude, it's like so far beyond that. There's like a whole vertical genre now of pro wrestling sitcoms. And like, how did that happen? 5 years ago, there were no 10 years ago, there were no pro wrestling sitcoms, you know?
What I think happened was that Hollywood realized what we already knew, that wrestling's super interesting. It's not just getting in the ring and falling. Just the behind the scenes of wrestling is so interesting with Dark Side of the Ring and which I was a part of also,
Yeah.
and all of that stuff. Just you with Glow and Young Rock and Heels, and wrestling is really really interesting. It's so dynamic and it's so different than anything else that I think Hollywood's starting to realize that, and they're starting to realize too that these wrestlers, it's not just Hulk Hogan and then Dwayne Johnson, but you have Batista killing it, you got Cena killing it, you have a lot of these wrestlers that are coming in and just becoming huge box office stars.
Yeah, and I don't know if you have anything to do with it, but I just did an interview with Blue Demon Jr. recently about his Disney show, and like that thing sounds awesome as well. You know?
That there's well, nothing's set yet, but we're talking about that. So
Okay.
hopefully, I hope that
Okay.
happens.
Okay. Cool. I don't want. I don't want to have.
I mean, it's a natural progression. You think about Lucha Libre, Hollywood, you know,
They
Chavo Guerrero, the wrestling coordinator. It's a natural progression.
they did tease. They were like, we've got some big names coming in, some people that you may know, and I was like, I think I might know one of them. I don't know. Anyway, Chavo, I'm so happy for you and your success, man. You're always killing it. You've always got something else coming down the pike. Where do you want to send people to find you, follow you, support you, all those great things right now, man?
So come check me out. Always on Instagram at chavoguerrerojr.com. I'm sorry, Chavo Guerrero Jr. I always throw the .com in there. I'm not sure why, but definitely come check me out on that, because you'll see I'm always posting about all of my stuff there on Twitter at Mex Warrior. But you know, lots more stuff coming on. Still my beers out there. I got a cigar company that we're doing some talks in with, have my own cigar.
Yep.
Yeah, there's my beer right there.
Yeah.
So you know, just the stuff that I like, you know, that I'm trying to get that out to the people I like, stuff that I do, you know, I'll smoke a cigar every now and then, and I like a nice cigar, drink a beer every now and then, you know, more often than not, you know, and, you know, just kind of that kind of stuff. So hopefully maybe one of these days I get my own golf club out there too from playing golf and stuff, but
yeah, dude, totally. Yeah. You can bring back Kerwin White, right? I mean,
there you go. There you go. Everything's coming full circle, brother.